Hi, it's Nick Cicatelli again for the discussion prompts for the Bach. So the first one was what was memorable about the play. Uh, the thing that was most memorable to me was Dionysus's epilogue at the beginning of the play. Uh, in this, he kind of talks about who he was before he was made a god. You know, where he came from, his parents, not really Zeus so much as his mother, but what was really interesting about that and memorable to me is that you don't really see into gods' lives before they were made gods. Typically, most of the gods were either born gods from Kronos, or they were just kind of introduced and be like, "Hey, I'm a god now." You don't really see a whole lot of their moral side or who they were before they were made immortal. So to me, that was really interesting. The second question about the three major points of tension or conflict. The first one is kind of an obvious one. It's the conflict between Dionysus and Pentheus. That's more of a religious conflict because Pentheus doesn't really like anything that Dionysus stands for as a god and refuses to kind of like promote those ideals in Thebes because he wants this kind of perfect society and he doesn't really appreciate what Dionysus has to stand for. The second one would be kind of like a suspenseful building, yeah, like tension point when Dionysus is kind of like tricking Pentheus and three times, which is kind of interesting because like it kind of correlates to the story from the Bible, which was I thought was pretty interesting. And third point of conflict is whenever Pentheus's mother Agave, or however you pronounce her name, kills him. You know, that's just a point of conflict. She literally just kills her son. So um, those all kind of play into this thing that like gods are a lot more powerful than everybody gives credit for. Nobody's really stronger than them. For question three, what do the maidens look like? Nobody really knows. They are not really depicted graphically in the play. But since Dionysus was like the god of wine and like parties and stuff like that, he was like the fertility god. You can kind of think that they were more of like lower class prostitute like women. Lines like busily glad, ivy chains, worn wand to be tossed its locks, young steed set free. Kind of sounds a little seedy. And that kind of depicts women of the era because they didn't really have a whole lot of rights. Men held most of the rights. They were more used for reproductive points. Some had power, but not a whole lot. For the fourth one, I think one of the big meanings of the play is that there's more to everyone that meets the eye. Dionysus is typically a calm god. He doesn't really get involved in the affairs of mortals all that much, but whenever somebody really displeases him, he can get really involved, which is what happens in this play. He can, literally just snap at any point and snap their minds. And Pentheus wants a strong Thebes. He wants a strong, independent Thebes where their morals are not corrupt. But he kind of upsets a god in the process, and that's never good. For the last question about why Elvis is on the cover, it's a theme. This play has themes that transcend time, so it'll always be relevant, and you can make it a modern play with modern characters if you want, which is clearly what that picture was going for. Okay.